Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Agriculture, SOA, Diploma Postgraduate Diploma Programs, PG Diploma in Food Safety and Quality Management, PGDFSQM, MVP 001 Food Fundamentals and Chemistry, Block-1 Introduction to Food Science, Unit 2 Food from Plant Sources, 2.0 Objectives. After reading this unit, we shall be able to times list out foods from plant sources, times describe the of cereals, legumes, oilseeds and horticultural crops, and times explain post-harvest processing, mainly primary, secondary and tertiary processing of plant-sourced foods. 2.1 Introduction. We have learnt that food substances are primarily composed of carbohydrates, fats, proteins, minerals, vitamins and water moisture. It is consumed by the animal or human being for nutrition and satiety. Food may be sourced from plants, animals and other categories such as fungus. Man uses plant products that correspond to many different parts of the plant and many different stages in plant development as a source of food. There are around 2000 plant species that are cultivated for food, and many have several distinct cultivars. The plant-sourced foods can be grouped as seeds, roots, leaves, stems, flowers and fruits. Among these, seeds are the most important source of food because they are enriched with all the nutrients and energy necessary for the plant's initial growth. Seeds also account for bulk of the foods consumed by human beings. These include cereals, e.g. rice, wheat, maize, and millets, legumes, example, beans, peas, and lentils, nuts and oilseeds. Apart from seeds, other plant parts, like roots, leaves, stems, flowers and fruits are also eaten as food on the basis of keeping quality and suitability for storage. Plant products can be grouped into durables and perishables. Cereals, pulses and oilseeds are mainly durables, whereas fruits and vegetables are perishables. Perishables are high in moisture content and prone to spoilage after their harvest, whereas cereals are low in moisture and could be stored for longer periods. The plant products first stored and transported by man were all durables. It is only relatively recently that man has been able to keep and transport the more perishable products. Keeping quality of perishables varies from few hours to some weeks. The main difference between durables and perishables are summarized in Table 2.1. Table 2.1 Difference between durables and perishables. Durables, perishables, designed for preservation, not designed for preservation. Low moisture content, usually 10 to 15%. High moisture content, usually 50 to 90%. Small unit size, large unit size, typically 5g to 6 kilograms. Often symmetrical in shape, often asymmetrical in shape. Hard texture, soft texture, stable, inherent storage life of years, perishable, natural storage life of a few days to month depending on type. Losses mainly caused by external factors, e.g. mold, insects and rodents. Losses caused by external factors, mainly molds and bacteria, and internal factors, e.g. respiration, sprouting, ripening, etc. To point to food grains, the grain seeds that are used primarily for food are referred to as food grains. These include rice, wheat, corn, maize, coarse grains, sorghum and millet, and legumes, pulses, beans, dried peas, and lentils. The grain seeds that have high oil content and processed for oil extraction are called oilseeds. The grains are compact and dry. They can be easily handled, transported and stored. They also have good storage stability. All the grain seeds used as food are important in meeting the basic nutritional requirement. The grains have high carbohydrates content, sufficient protein, fats, vitamins and minerals. Based on their main growing season in India, food grains are usually grouped as Kharif, rainy season, crops or Rabi, winter season, crops. Kharif crops are grown during summer and rains during April to August and harvested by October, whereas Rabi crops are generally sown between October to February and harvested by May. Rice, maize, millets, groundnut and soybean are important Kharif crops, whereas wheat, barley and a variety of all seeds are Rabi crops. The total food grain production in India in the year 2005 to 2006 was 208.3 million tons, out of which cereals accounted for 195.2 million tons. The total food grain production in 2007 to 8 was 227.32 million tons, metric ton. The production values for major cereals included rice 95.68 metric ton, wheat 76.78 metric ton and maize 18.54 metric ton. The production of food grains is seasonal and weather sensitive. 2.3 cereals, food grain crops that belong to the grass family, Graminae, form a major part of the food grains basket. They yield seed grains usable as food by humans and livestock. The common cereals are rice, wheat, barley, oats, maize, corn, sorghum, rye, and certain millets. Jowar and bajra are important millet crops grown in India. There are several reasons why cereals are so important on the human diet. They can be grown in a variety of areas, some even in adverse soil and climatic conditions. They can be easily cultivated and give reasonably assured high yields compared to most other crops. Cereal grains are grown in greater quantities and provide more energy worldwide than any other type of crops. Because of their big contribution to the dietary and nutritional requirements, these are known as staple foods. In some developing nations, grains constitute practically almost the entire diet of poor people. Introduction to Food Science 2.3.1 Structure and Composition of Cereals. A. Structure. The structure of all cereals is similar, yet each one has its distinguishing features. The cereal grain is a one-seeded indehiscent fruit or caryopsis. The basic structure involves three parts: the bran, a layered protective outer coat, endosperm, the large starchy part containing some protein, and the germ, the embryonic part of the plant. The grains also have a husk cover which surrounds the entire bran. The husk or hull is the external, fibrous part of the grain that protects the grain during its formation and is totally indigestible. The bran consists of several layers: the fruit coat, pericarp, and seed coat, testa. The germ or embryo is the part of the grain from which a new plant develops. The endosperm or starchy part constitutes between 80% and 90% of the grain. It is the food store of the grain, providing nourishment for the germinating plant. It is the most important part of the grain for the consumer and miller, since it is from this part that the flour is obtained. Important food substances like carbohydrates, protein, fat, vitamins and mineral matter and water moisture are found in cereals. However, they occur in different quantities in the different grains. Some contain large quantities of protein while others practically have none. Certain ones have considerable fat content while others have it only in lesser quantities. A characteristic of all cereals, however, is that they contain a large amount of carbohydrate and a small amount of water moisture. The largest proportion of carbohydrate lies in the center, gradually declining toward the outside of the grain. The protein lies near the outer portion. Fat is found in small amounts scattered through the entire grain, but most of it is found in the germ, which is a tiny portion of the grain from which the new plant sprouts. The mineral matter of cereals is found chiefly just inside the bran or outer covering. So, when this covering is removed in the processed food preparation or processing, a certain amount of mineral matter is generally lost. During milling, the bran and germ are removed because bran is ingestible and the high oil-containing germ is susceptible to rancidity. However, this process also removes much of the B vitamins, iron, and dietary fiber. The resulting grains after milling are known as refined polished grain. White flour and white rice are examples of refined grains. Some refined grains are enriched. This means certain B vitamins, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, folic acid, and iron are added back after processing. Fiber is not added back to most enriched grains. Whole grains, on the contrary, contain the entire grain kernel, the bran, germ, and endosperm. Examples include whole wheat flour, bulgur, oatmeal, rye, bread, whole cornmeal, and brown rice. B. Composition. Cereal grains contain carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and mineral matter. Carbohydrates. We have already learnt in the Unit 1 the physiological functions of carbohydrates in human body. Carbohydrate in the form of starch is the major food substance found in cereals. Rice with 75% starch content is the highest starch-containing cereal, while oats having less than 50% starch has the least starch content. Distributed throughout the grain in tiny granules, starch is more easily digested than either protein or fat. However, starch in its natural form is insoluble, tasteless, and unsuitable for human consumption. To make it digestible and acceptable, it must be cooked or processed. Fats. The fat content provides the heat and energy-producing qualities in cereals. Of the important cereals used as food, oats and corn contain the more amount of fat. The oil of corn, because of its lack of flavor, is frequently used in the manufacture of salad oil, cooking oil, and pastry fat. The fat that occurs in cereals becomes rancid if it is not carefully stored. In the making of white flour, the germ of the wheat is removed. And since most of the fat is taken out, along with the germ, white flour keeps much better than the flour from which the germ is not abstracted in the milling process. Proteins. Cereals are essentially a carbohydrate food, but some also yield a good proportion of protein. Cereal proteins are, however, deficient in lysine and methionine. This is in contrast to the food from animals sources that yield mainly protein, with the exception of milk, which yields carbohydrates also. The grain that contains the most protein is wheat, and it occurs as gluten, a substance that is responsible for the gumminess and elasticity of the wheat flour when it is mixed with water. The rubbery consistency of bread dough is also because of gluten. Cereals that contain no gluten do not make good bread. Rye is only next to wheat in protein content. Rice contains the least. The protein sourced from cereals is relatively cheap compared to that from other food sources. Minerals. Cereals also contain a variety of minerals required for the human body. Much of the mineral matter lies directly under the core's outside covering. Some of it is lost when this covering is removed in the milling. For this reason, the grains that remain whole and the cereal products that contain the entire grain are much more valuable for nutrition's reasons. In the diet dish, if sufficient mineral content is sourced from vegetables, fruits, and milk, it is perhaps unnecessary to insist on whole cereals. But if the diet is at all limited in variety, it is advisable to select the whole grain cereals contain very little water moisture in their composition. This is a distinct advantage, for it makes their nutritive value proportionately high and improves their keeping quality. This low proportion of water moisture allows them to be stored easily without much chances of spoilage. 2.3.2 Post-harvest processing. Cereals undergo a number of processing stages between harvest and consumption. This chain of processes is often referred to as the total post-harvest system. Each type of cereal requires a specific post-harvest treatment. However, there are certain general principles that apply to most of them. The post-harvest processing systems can be split into 4 distinct areas. The first involves the preparation of harvested grain for storage. This is further followed by primary, secondary, and tertiary processing. Soon after harvesting, grains are subjected to threshing and winnowing. Threshing involves the removal of grains from the rest of the plant, whereas winnowing is the separation of the grains from the chaff or straw and is traditionally carried out by lifting and tossing the threshed material. In the process, the lighter chaff and straw get blown to one side while the heavier seeds fall down vertically. Now the grains are ready for drying and subsequent storage. The most cost-effective method is to spread out in the sun to dry. In humid climates, it may be necessary to use an artificial dryer. Cereal grains should be dried to 10 to 14% moisture before storage. Grains are often stored along with some permitted insecticides and must be stored in rodent-proof containers. Primary processing. Primary processing basically involves several different processes designed to clean, sort and remove the inedible fractions from the grains. It includes operations like grading, hulling, milling, pounding, grinding, tempering, parboiling, soaking and drying. After cleaning, the grains are graded according to the size. Several grains have an unpalatable husk or shell that needs to be removed by a decorticator. This is known as hulling. After hulling, the grains are milled. Milling or pounding is the process of conversion of grain to flour. If the grain is too dry and hard, it is difficult to break down and requires more energy to convert it into flour. If the grain is too moist, the material sticks to the mill. Most grains can be ground in a hammer mill. The milled grain is filtered out through a perforated plate sieve that runs around the edge of the mill chamber. The size of the holes in the perforated plate determines the fineness of grinding of the particles. Grain for human consumption is ground to a 1 mm particle size, while animal feed is ground to a 3 mm particle size. Parboiling is another kind of primary processing that is followed only in rice. Parboiling involves soaking and heating the rice, which precooks the grains, loosens the hull, sterilizes and preserves the rice. At the village level, parboiling is carried out in large pans over an open fire. The products from primary processing are still not consumable and require secondary processing. Secondary processing. The third stage, called secondary processing, transforms the grains into edible products. Secondary processing of cereals, or adding value to cereals, is the utilization of the primary products, whole grains, flakes or flour, to make more interesting products and add variety to the diet. They were developed specifically to manage the agricultural surplus and ensure stability of the food markets in developed countries. Secondary processing of cereals includes the following processes: flaking, roasting, puffing, frying, baking, fermentation, and extrusion. These foods require minimum preparation, typically just heating, and are packaged for a long shelf life with little loss of flavor and nutrients over time. Puffed rice, also known as murmur, is made by heating rice in sand-filled ovens. Puffed rice is used in snack foods and breakfast cereals and is also a popular street food in some parts. Flaked rice, popularly known as poha, is made by a process in which whole rice is cleaned, conditioned to a suitable moisture and lightly rolled between smooth rolls to fracture the outer layer. Moisture can then penetrate the grain more readily, thus help in cooking. See tertiary processing. During primary and secondary processing of cereals, lot of waste and bioproducts are generated. These can be utilized by converting into useful products. Byproducts such as broken grains and flours are often used as animal feed. Rice hulls are sometimes used as fuel and their ashes as fertilizer. Rice bran wax is used as wax coating for fruits and vegetables. Rice bran is used for recovering oil. Defatted bran is utilized as important ingredient for cattle and poultry feed. Rice is also used industrially in the production of alcohol, beer, starch, oil and other byproducts. 2.3.3 Foods from cereals. 4 general groups of foods are prepared from the cereal grains. 1. Whole grain products include rolled oats, brown rice, popcorn, shredded and puffed grains, and breakfast foods. 2. Milled grain products, made by removing the bran and usually the germ or embryo of the seed, include polished rice, farina, wheat flour, cornmeal, corn grits, pearled barley, semolina. 4. Macaroni products, prepared breakfast cereals and soup, gravy, and other thickenings. 3. Baked products, made from flour or meal, include breads, pastries, pancakes, cookies, and cakes. 4. Beverages such as beer and whiskey, made from fermented grain products, distilled or undistilled, and from boiled, roasted grains. 5. Other miscellaneous products such as starch, malt, distilled spirit, livestock feed, and wheat straw. 2.4 Grain legumes. Grain legumes, also called as beans or pulses, are second only to cereals as a source of human and animal food. Legumes or pulses are general names given to plants like beans and peas that are distinguished by having their grains in pods. Beans, lentils, peanuts, peas, and soybeans are some of the common legumes consumed by humans. The term pulses, as used by the FAO, is reserved for crops harvested solely for the dry grain. This therefore excludes green beans and green peas, which are considered vegetable crops. Legume seeds have twice as much protein as grains. They are also high in iron and B vitamins. Some legumes, such as clover and alfalfa, are used as animal feed. Split pulses are popularly known as dals in India, for example, chana dal, Bengal gram, tuber dal, red gram, moong dal, green gram, and urad dal, black gram. In India, legumes pulses are being consumed as part of a primarily cereal-based diet from time immemorial. Legumes pulses are the main source of protein and are 2 to 3 times richer in proteins than cereal grains. Pulses are 20–25% protein by weight, which is double the protein content of wheat and 3 times that of rice. For this reason, pulses are sometimes called poor man's meat. The food legumes are classified into categories: the legumes in which energy is stored as starch, e.g. pulses, and the ones in which it is stored as fat or oil, e.g. peanut and soybean. All seed legumes are the major contributor to world edible oil supply as well as protein-rich diets and cattle feed. The soy bean in India is exclusively used as a source of oil and the meal as a protein-rich animal feed. Inhibitors hold back the popularization of soybean as a food legume in Indian diets. The trypsin inhibitors present in the soybean and their Removal before consuming is a stumbling block. The trypsin inhibitor does not get destroyed in ordinary cooking. Organoleptic factors such as flavor and odor and the presence of flatulence factor also have to be tackled. Special processes are available to eliminate or at least reduce these factors to a more acceptable level. India traditionally has been the largest producer and consumer of pulses, food, legumes in the world, accounting for 25% of the global output. The current production of all pulses legumes in India at 91.0 million tons is inadequate to meet the huge domestic demand. India is also the world's largest importer of pulses. Canada, Myanmar, Australia and the United States are significant exporters of pulses and significant suppliers to India due to a sea change in the dietary habits in view of the growing health consciousness and preference for vegetarian proteins. There is an increasing demand for grain legumes in the developed world not only as food but also for feed. 2.4.1 Composition of legumes. Pulses supply the same amount of calories as cereals, i.e. 350 kilocalories per 100 g, 1464.4 kg 100 g, dry weight. While pulses are generally high in protein, and the digestibility of that protein is also high, they often are relatively poor in the essential amino acid methionine. Grains, which are themselves deficient in lysine, are commonly consumed along with pulses to form a complete protein. It is not safe to eat raw or undercooked kidney beans and soya beans because of the antitrypsin factor or trypsin inhibitor that prevents the assimilation of the amino acid carbohydrates content. Legumes usually contain large amounts of carbohydrates ranging from 24 to 68% and starch is the main carbohydrate, along with oligosaccharides. Oligosaccharide raffinose is predominant in legumes. It is known to cause indigestion and flatulence that cause discomfort, abdominal rumbling, cramps, pain and diarrhea. Besides, they also contain cellulose and hemicellulose. Protein content. The protein content in pulses range from 17 to 30%, about twice or thrice of that in cereals. Soybean with a high of 42% protein is the highest protein-containing pulse. Proteins from legumes generally have all the essential amino acids but is deficient in tryptophan, methionine and cysteine. This deficiency can be made up by taking cereals and pulses together. Fat content. The fat content of most pulses is low, i.e. 1 to 2%. However, some legumes, such as peanuts, with 50%, soybeans, 21%, and winged beans, 17%, contain considerable fats. Pulses and legumes are also a rich source of dietary fiber, minerals, and vitamins. Legumes are a good source of minerals such as calcium, iron, copper, zinc, potassium, magnesium, and phosphorus. These are reputed to lower blood cholesterol and help diabetics by reducing post-meal rise in blood sugar. They are gradually absorbed in the body, resulting in low rise of blood sugar. Legumes are rich in vitamins, especially vitamin B complex, and also beta-carotene and niacin. Germinated chickpea and green gram contain plenty of ascorbic acid. Anti-nutritional factors. Legumes contain some compounds that have a negative food value. These include protease inhibitors, hemagglutinins, saponins, cyanogenic glucosides, latherogens, phytate, raffinose and tannins. Most of these anti-nutritional factors can be neutralized by soaking in water before cooking the pulses. Peanuts, because of their high moisture content at harvest, may support mold growth and development of toxic metabolites of molds such as aflatoxins. Heat processing and cooking can help reduce aflatoxin levels to some extent. 2.4.2 Processing pulses. In India, most of the pulses are consumed in dehusked and split form. Thus, processing of pulses assumes a lot of importance. Pulses processing industry helps in processing the raw grain legumes pulses into edible form. Processing activity is undertaken at three different levels, namely primary, secondary and tertiary. Primary processing involves cleaning, grading and packaging of pulses. Under secondary processing activities such as dehusking, splitting, polishing, turmeric spices, salt coating and powdering and packaging are done after dehusking and splitting pulses becomes dulls. Tertiary processing mostly involves activities such as preparation of roasted, fried dulls for snack foods and confectionery. Primarily, dulls are consumed after cooking, however they are utilized for making other value-added products such as papads. Baris and besan, fine flour, which is used for making sweets, snacks and mixed with wheat flour to make chapatis, flat bread. Dulls are widely used in South Indian foods such as dosa, vada and idli. Savory products such as aloo, gujia, Bikaneri sev, moong dal are prepared from dulls. 2.5 All seeds. Characteristics. The crops cultivated for production of oils are known as all-seed crops. All seeds rank next to the food grains in importance in the Indian diet according to the nature of the yielded oil. These are classified as edible all seeds and non-edible all seeds. The rapeseed, mustard, sesame, sunflower, Niger, safflower, coconut, soybean and groundnut are the most important edible all seeds crops grown in India. Castor and linseed are two most important non-edible oil crops. Fats and oils are important energy source for animals and plants and accounts for 21.4 times the calories found in an equal dry weight of protein or carbohydrate. They are smooth, greasy substances that are insoluble in water. Fats have other substances associated with it, such as fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E and K in natural foods, the sterols, cholesterol in animal fats and ergosterol in vegetable fats. A typical fat molecule consists of glycerol, combined with 3 fatty acids. There are about 20 different common fatty acids that are connected to glycerol in natural fats. These fatty acids differ in length and in number of hydrogen atoms they contain. The chemical variations in fats lead to different functional, nutritional and keeping quality properties. The difference in melting point arises because of this variation. The longer the fatty acids chain, the harder the fats and shorter the chain, softer the fats. Vegetable oils are fats of plant origin and remain in liquid form at room temperature, whereas fats of animal origin remain solid at that temperature level. There are some exceptions, however. For instance, coconut oil is solid at room temperatures in colder months because it has a melting point of 24-27 C. On the other hand, fish fats or oils are liquids at room temperature. Generally, the reason that some fats are solids and others are liquids at room temperature has to do with the percentage of saturated or unsaturated fatty acids in the fat. Unsaturated fatty acids with 4 or more carbon atoms that can accept hydrogen are more reactive than saturated fatty acids and are especially capable of combining with oxygen present in the atmosphere. This is the case when a carbon saturated with hydrogen is present between two carbons, each of which could accept hydrogen or free electron. CH is equal to CH, CH2, CH is equal to CH dot. When the unsaturated fatty acids in fats become oxidized, the fat generally becomes rancid or has an off flavor. Oils, therefore, should be stored at Ambient temperature in sealed, preferably dark-colored containers to prevent oxidation. Reused oils need to be strained to remove impurities that could lead to oxidation and associated rancidity. Oils that have been used frequently for deep frying should be discarded. Vegetable oils are often a rich source of unsaturated fatty acids, although some saturates are also present. Vegetable oils usually contain natural antioxidants such as vitamin E, which helps the oils resist rancidity, which occurs when oxidation takes place. Sometimes a blend of oils is used in a product to take advantage of the desirable characteristics of the different types of oils. Some important properties of fats are: 1. All fats and oils have unique flavors and odors. Some are more suited for particular purposes than others, e.g. olive oil for salad dressing, for flavor, and mustard oil for frying. 2. Fat has shortening power, that is, it interlaces between protein and starch structures and makes them tear apart easily, and allows them to stretch long. In this way, fat tenderizes meat as well as baked goods. 3. Fat is a lubricant in foods that it makes swallowing of carbohydrates easier while eating. 4. Fats gradually soften on heating, that is, they do not have a sharp melting point. This property is called plasticity and gives each fat its unique character. Some fats have been formulated so that their melting points are low and they can be spread straight from the fridge, e.g. soft margarine, spreadable butter. 5. Fats can be heated substantially above the boiling point of water, so they can brown the surfaces of foods. 6. Fats form emulsions with water and air. Fat globules may be suspended in a large amount of water as in milk or cream, or droplets of water may be suspended in a large amount of fat as in butter. Air may be trapped as an emulsion in fat as in butter, cream, icing or in whipped butter. 7. Fats and oils are used in confectioneries and cakes to give these products opacity, flavor and desirable texture. Addition of fat to sugar confectionery also helps to prolong eating quality. 8. Some vegetable oils are richer in fatty acids that are extremely good for health, e.g. omega-6 fatty acids, e.g. sunflower and corn oils, and omega-3 fatty acids, e.g. rapeseed oil and soya oil. Other oils are rich in monounsaturated fatty acids, e.g. olive oil, rapeseed oil, groundnut oil. 2.5.1 Processing of all seeds. Processing of all seeds may vary with raw material, however some general steps are common to all. The first step involves preparation of the raw material, removal of fine impurities, husks or seed coats from the seeds and separating the seeds from the chaff. The seeds are then cracked to expose the meats of the raw material. Oil is then extracted mechanically with an oil press. An expeller. Presses range from small, hand-driven models that an individual can build to power-driven commercial presses. Expellers have a rotating screw inside a horizontal cylinder that is capped at one end. The screw forces the seeds or nuts through the cylinder, gradually increasing the pressure. The material is heated by friction and/or electric heaters. The oil escapes from the cylinder through small holes or slots, and the press cake emerges from the end of the cylinder. Oils can also be extracted with solvents, but solvent extraction is a complex operation and not suitable for small-scale processor. After extraction, oils are clarified to remove contaminants such as fine pulp, water, and resins. Sealed glass or plastic bottles are adequate. Colored containers in a dark box help to increase shelf life. Seed cake is a valuable byproduct of pressing and makes a good chicken, pig, or cattle feed. Oil finds wide uses as food, skin care products, aromatherapies, biodiesel fuels, and industrial lubricants. 2.6 Horticultural crops, structure and composition. A range of crops including fruits, vegetables, flowers, ornamental plants, plantation crops is grouped as horticultural crops. These crops play an important role in the national economy and are important drivers of growth. The total annual production of horticultural crops in the country is around 149 million tons. Fruits and vegetables are the principal horticultural crops. The two together provide the base for nutritional and healthy foods, but also generate a considerable cash income for growers. India is the second largest producer of fruits, 45.5 million tons, and vegetables, 90.8 million tons, accounting for 10.23% and 14.45% respectively of the world production. Plantation crops are perennial crops planted on large scale or in estates. Its objective is meant for large-scale production of a single cash crop. This often involves large landowners raising crops of high value and great economic importance. These crops usually require a sequence of post-harvest processing before they can be utilized. Tea, coffee, rubber, coconut, arecanut, cashewnut, black pepper, and cardamom are some of the important plantation crops. India is the largest producer of areca nut, cashew nut and tea and second largest producer of coconut and cardamom in world. Fruits and vegetables. Botanically, fruits are the mature ovaries containing the seeds of the plants, whereas vegetables are derived from various plant parts such as root, leaves, stems, buds and so on. Fruits and vegetables make up a significant part of the diets of most cultures. Fruits include soft fruits, raspberry, blackberry, red currant, strawberry and bilberry, citrus fruits, orange, lime, lemon, kumquat and grapefruit, stone fruits, plum, apricot, peach, lychee, cherry and mango, fleshy fruits, apple, papaya, pineapple, pear and banana, and wine, fruits, grape, watermelon and cantaloupe. Vegetables include root vegetables, carrots, sweet potatoes, leaf vegetables, such as spinach and lettuce, stem vegetables, such as bamboo shoots and asparagus, and inflorescence vegetables, such as globe artichokes and broccoli. Some fruits, such as tomato, pumpkin and eggplant, are also eaten as vegetables. Many herbs and spices have proved to be highly flavored vegetables. An important distinction between fruits and vegetables is based on their usage. Those plant items that are generally eaten with the main course of meal are often considered to be vegetables. Those commonly eaten alone as a dessert are considered as fruits. Fruits are generally acidic and sugary, whereas vegetables are low in acids and sugar. Vegetables are rich in vitamin A, ascorbic acid, protein, legumes, and fiber. Carrots, sweet potatoes, green leafy vegetables, and tomato are best sources of vitamin A. Among vegetables, hot chili peppers, turnip greens, and spinach are also good sources. Sweet peppers, hot chilies, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and cauliflower and bitter gourd are prominent sources of vitamin C. Vitamin B is found in green peas, lima beans, turnip greens, spinach and sweet potato. Potato is an important source of potassium for people in many countries. Lima beans, soybeans and spinach are good sources of iron. Calcium is present in moderate amounts in turnip greens, soybeans, garlic, parsley and Chinese cabbage. Fruits and vegetables are equally good sources of dietary fiber. We already have seen the importance of dietary fiber in previous unit. Scientific Studies have consistently shown that consumption of diets rich in dietary fiber can help reduce the risk of cardiovascular diseases, diverticulosis, and colon cancer. A more obvious effect of dietary fiber is their laxative action, which helps relieving of constipation by increasing the water-holding capacity of foods. 2.6.1 Post-harvest technology. Fruits and vegetables are different from cereals, pulses and oilseeds. Generally, they cannot be stored for longer periods and should be used as soon as possible. If stored, they should be kept in a cool, dark place to prevent sprouting, mold growth and rotting. Since they are tender and high in moisture content, they are highly perishable. If not handled properly, a high-value nutritious product can deteriorate and rot in a matter of days or even hours. Some fruits such as coconut and citrus, with a protective rind, can be handled and shipped reasonably well. Post-harvest losses can occur in the field, in packing areas, in storage, during transportation, and in wholesale or retail markets. Therefore, a series of sophisticated technologies have to be applied in post-harvest handling of horticultural crops. Fruits and vegetables breed like humans do, respiring day and night, continuously giving off water as they release energy for growth and metabolism. In respiration, plants use oxygen to break down carbohydrates, proteins, and fats into carbon dioxide and water. Respiration leads to drying out, wilting and shriveling, less food value and less sweetness. This leads to loss of quality and freshness. Mechanical injuries such as abrasion, puncture and bruising lead to more water loss. Also, wounded and punctured areas are more prone to be attacked by bacteria and fungi. Apart from these, there are other factors that lead to loss in quality. These include inefficient crop production, harvesting and handling methods, poor crop processing techniques, inadequate methods of storage and transportation, and even poor preparation procedures. Traditional marketing systems often contribute to reduced returns to farmers by involving several changes of hands. Modern post-harvest technologies applied in grading, packaging, pre-cooling, storage, and transportation minimize losses and preserve quality. Another useful approach to minimize post-harvest loss of horticultural commodities is to add value to products. Value addition involves change of form of a product, converting raw material into ingredients or processed products to cater to demands of heterogeneous consumers. Value addition offers numerous advantages to the growers and consumers. Value-added products have extended shelf life, improved quality, and palatability. Farmers can derive high farm income from their produce by adding value to their products by way of cleaning, trimming, processing, and packaging. Post-harvest value addition includes primary, secondary, and tertiary processing operations performed on farm produce. Primary processing refers to on-farm handling, cleaning, trimming, sorting, grading, cooling, and packaging, whereas secondary processing includes processes which modify the form of the product, i.e., convert raw product to a processed products. Processed products offer % edible product, are convenient, and have improved eating quality. Jams, jellies, marmalades, sauces, ketchups, cordials, juices, nectars, pickles, candies, preserves, canned, frozen, dried, and fermented products are examples of secondary processed products. 2.7 Summary: cereal grains, pulses, oilseeds, and horticultural crops are important foods from plant sources. Together, cereal grains, pulses, oilseeds, and horticultural crops provide us much-needed carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and vitamins and minerals for human nutrition. Pulses are 2 to 3 times richer in protein than cereals. A combination of cereals and pulses also complements the diet in respect of amino acids lacking in respective diets. Cereals grains are compact and dry and can be easily handled, transported and stored over long periods in comparison to horticultural crops. The shelf life of horticultural crops is limited because of their moisture content and respiration activities. Secondary processing adds value to cereals and transforms grain to edible products such as breakfast cereals, puffed, flaked, fried and extruded products. Horticultural crops require a range of modern post-harvest technologies applied in grading, packaging, pre-cooling, packaging, storage and transportation to minimize losses and preserve quality. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.